Good morning. I'm Glen de Vriesga. I'm the president and co-founder of Medidata, and it is my pleasure to be with you here today. Thank you so much for coming. This is one of my favorite events of the year, and I just could not be more excited to hopefully make this a productive and good day for you, and to share with you a little bit about how we're thinking about the future of our industry and the future of what we are doing at Medidata together. With that excitement, as you can see from what's up on the wall, it's also an exciting time at Medidata because we are celebrating our 20th year anniversary as a company. If you didn't notice what's on the wall, you also have some very special fruits and nuts at your seat in honor of our 20th anniversary. The picture on the left of this slide is of myself, a little bit embarrassing, and one of our first Medidata employees. She was an administrator at the Columbia Presbyterian Medical Center, the teaching hospital where many of us as founders first met and where we first decided we could use technology to make research better. So she has been with us on this 20-year journey, and hopefully you can see the excitement of Medidata employees about what we've accomplished with you. In the center is myself and co-founder and CEO Tariq Sharif. I still get to work with not just my co-founder, but my best friend every day. And we could not be prouder of what we've been able to do with you for the last 20 years. And we are so excited about what we are going to accomplish together for the next 20. And now, as we look back over our journey, we are in an exciting place as a company as the largest platform for research in the world. That's not thanks to us. We're just there to provide tools. That is thanks to you, our clients. And the ultimate measure to us of success is when we are delivering therapies, molecules, medical devices, digital therapies, combinations that help patients. And we are honored and humbled to be able to power some of the research every year, inclusive of last year, delivering new drugs to patients who are waiting for them in so many different therapeutic areas. So once again, thank you for bringing us with you on your journey of delivering new therapies. The ecosystem of Medidata has gotten quite large. We think this is hopefully a benefit for you. Today is a day for you to be part of that ecosystem, to not just learn for yourself, but to hear from your colleagues who work at different companies, both here in South Korea and around the world. There are more than 1,300 companies that use Medidata for their research. It's the biggest biotechs, the biggest pharmaceuticals, the biggest medical device companies in the world, all the way down to startup companies, small companies that are just inventing new therapies, academic medical centers, governments, not-for-profit organizations. So we get this amazing view at Medidata of our industry, the whole industry. And we think that our view is something that you should benefit from and share. And again, that's what today is about. You, as people working on the Medidata platform, are part of a global community, almost 1 million people in the life sciences community working every day on the Medidata platform. So thank you for choosing us, and we hope you take advantage of that ecosystem. You also see that we have over 80 accredited partners. These are CROs, systems integrators, who work on our platform to deliver services alongside you every day. We think this ecosystem is second to none. And again, we appreciate you being part of it, but we want you to also take advantage of it. And this is not just an ecosystem outside of South Korea, outside of Asia Pacific. It is very much, as you heard, something that is local. There is a community that you can take advantage of that includes local companies, local partners, and people working throughout the region on our platform. One of the things that I think is so important to any business and I'll say it multiple times today, I think it's something that South Korea is an amazing example of, is thinking about scale. And when I talk about this community that you're part of, I want to emphasize that scale. In the next hour, not day, just hour, there'll be 1 million transactions on the Medidata platform. There will be 10,000 different people working to submit hundreds of thousands of data points. There'll be 50,000 different medical images, not just small pieces of data, but big data that are added to the Medidata ecosystem. This is the kind of scale that can power huge new thinking in digital transformation, propel us as an industry into new heights. This is the rocket fuel that will take all of the work that you are doing and be able to accelerate it as we deliver things to those patients who are waiting. What are we going to deliver? Why am I so excited about the size of the ecosystem, the data? I'm excited about it because of 3 things. One is, as I keep saying, those patients. The reason that we all come to work every day, the reason that I still get excited. I was very excited to get up on stage today. I got excited today because I started my career, as I told you, in research science. I was doing oncology. And I used to get up in the morning excited to think about the experiments I was going to do and how that would impact patient lives. Now I'm excited about the 1 million transactions that are happening right now, the 1,300 companies that are developing drugs that are on the Medidata platform and all the work we are going to be doing. So that's what we mean by patient centricity. That's what we get excited about. But there's also practical things to think about. There's work. Right? We all have jobs that we're doing. You've taken a day out of your job, hopefully in a beneficial way, will make today worthwhile, but you have the job of running clinical trials. And you need to run clinical trials better than you did the day before. That's what all of our management wants, right? To do a better job today than we did yesterday. That's what we mean by execution. And between inspiration and just doing a better job lies innovation. Yes, we have to do what we've always done faster and more efficiently and with higher quality, but can we think about things in a totally new way? Can we think about doing something differently? Can we think about doing something better than we've ever done it before? That is the innovative spirit that I hope has defined our work together over the last 20 years and will continue to define how you think about and how you leverage Medidata. And so how do these things come together? Well, once again, let's do some science. Let's look at some data. So if you look at a traditional clinical development program, that's in the blue bars. You've invented a new molecule. You've decided that you're going to test it, clinical trials, and hopefully get it all the way to the point that that drug is approved. We all know, right? We all have been working in this industry, myself for a quarter of a century, maybe some of you for less time, but it doesn't matter how much time. You know this is a very difficult thing to do, right? You have a less than 10% chance of getting that new medicine across that line, the regulatory approval, so that a patient who is not in a research project can receive it and take advantage of its benefit. However, if we think a little bit differently about clinical development, not a lot, just a little bit, and you start to associate a biomarker, maybe it's a gene, with the way you identify patients to be suitable candidates for your drug, it makes your clinical trial more complicated. It makes your planning more complicated. It makes your analyses more complicated. But it improves the chance of getting that drug approved by a significant amount, almost 2.5 times what it was originally, over 25%. That is the return on making some small changes. So how do we as an industry make bigger and bigger changes? And that's what today is about. It's about removing the barriers to innovation. It's about doing a better job of standard execution so we can spend more time on innovation, and it's about delivering things to those patients. And this is what is in the way. IT systems. We all depend on them every day. The reason we started Medidata 25 years ago, before we started Medidata, the first day that there was even a glimmer in our eyes about what would become Medidata, was because I was at my laboratory bench, frustrated with IT systems that were preventing me from getting my research done. So if you look at the IT systems that we have in clinical research, today, I think they're much better than they were 25 years ago. I hope you look at Medidata if you're using RAVE, EDC, or you're using ePro, or you're using CSA, or any one of our individual solutions. I hope you think of it as something way better than what's ever existed. We think they are. But people still use disjointed systems. That's why there was a picture of a wall in the last slide. There are barriers between the different systems that we need to plan a study, to start a study, to execute a study, to close a study, to take all that information from the study and look at it from a scientific perspective and decide whether or not we've proven that this drug or this device is safe and effective and valuable for patients. Those divisions between IT systems are what slow down execution, what slows down our ability to innovate, and what slows down our ability to deliver that patient value. So again, let's not talk about it just in a picture like this. Let's think about it from a quantitative perspective. So if you have individual systems for those different aspects of a clinical trial, or even just in something like study execution, if you have a separate EDC system from the system that you use for patient-reported outcomes, or a separate EDC system from the system that you use for randomization and trial supplies, or a separate EDC system from where you're storing data in your trial master file. If you have barriers between these systems, from a business perspective, you can only really look at processes that cover one system or a small number of systems at a time. And what you see here is kind of how I think about waterfall business process improvement. Right? So when we think about waterfall development, whether it's software development or a business process improvement, waterfall means that you spend a lot of time planning. You create all your specifications, you come up with your new processes, you educate everybody about them, you spend a lot of time planning, rolling them out, and then you roll them out, and hopefully you're successful, but you have this single moment of making things better. Then you stop, and maybe a year later, maybe 5 years later, you plan again, and you make an improvement, and you continue on that level, and you keep going up. That's not bad, right? We're definitely improving, but this chart also is assuming that every one of these changes is a positive one. If you look in every industry, not just life sciences, if you look at automotive, if you look at aerospace, and if you look at the most successful life sciences companies in the world, they don't do waterfall. They've realized that continuous improvement, not making big steps, but continuously making smaller steps that are getting better and better and better, is the best way to improve operations in a company. It's the best way to improve a product. It's the best way to create value for a patient. And so the reason that we think about integrated platforms at Medidata is so you don't have to do this. You can do this. You can live in a world where there are no barriers between different systems. That doesn't mean that this is easy. But this means that you can focus on your job, on what you are doing as a data manager, as a clinical operations professional, as a pharmaceutical executive, and the systems don't get in your way, the flow of data doesn't get in your way, the separation of people in different parts of your organization, or the separation of somebody who's in your organization with somebody who's at a partner, a CRO, or a hospital, or the patient who's being treated, doesn't stop you from making these continuous improvements. So I told you I've been working at Medidata for 20 years, obviously. Actually, in the last quarter of that, I've been spending more and more time here in South Korea. I have become a big fan of South Korea. I think this is an amazing country where people really think in a different and exciting way about challenges, including, very specifically, industrial challenges. How do you transform industries in ways that scale beyond what people thought was possible? See, I told you I was going to talk about scale again. And I think if you look at the South Korean approach to scale, you see something that is very much in line with what I was saying about what we try to provide at Medidata. I think the IT base that we can give to you, our clients, will allow you to execute in the way that in this country people have executed in consumer electronics and automotive and so many industries that needed new things, new ways to think about scale. We can start to think that way here in Korea, and we're really excited to be part of that as the Medidata platform. It's taking away those barriers. It's taking away the barriers between the people. Again, data management and clinical operations. Probably everybody in this room, maybe not everybody, but most people in this room, think of themselves as one side of that or the other. Am I more focused on, am I a data manager? Am I a monitor? Maybe you're a biostatistician. But we think in silos. We have to think in a way where we can put all people on the same platform. We have to think about business process differently. If we have isolated processes that don't cross between these different departments, we'll never be able to make those improvements in that continuous curve that I showed you. Just like the IT systems, if we only improve clinical operations, and then we wait and we improve data management, then we wait and we improve biostatistics, it's taking too long and there's too much risk. So we need to think about the process and how we unify that. And when I talk about IT systems, I'm not just talking about screens. I'm not just talking about where we log on. I'm talking about the data that we all need to execute on our jobs. How do we share that in a way that does not have those barriers? How do we put that together in new ways that allow us to create new processes, that allow people in, for example, data management and clinical operations to share information about a site, to look at different aspects of performance, or a data manager and a statistician to look at different aspects of outcomes for a patient at the same time in new ways. This is what we are trying to help you do with the RAVE platform. There are going to be many opportunities today in the sessions, in this room and other rooms later this afternoon, as well as out there in the halls, where you can look at some of the solutions. But I want to make sure that you get at least an overview of how we think about this from a broad perspective. And so I'm just going to play a brief video that shows you some of these ideas, but maybe in the context of those siloed systems and processes that you're used to using every day today.
At Medidata, we understand that good data, the right data, is critical to a clinical trial. Without capturing and managing clinical data in a scientific, statistically sound manner, there is no clinical trial. Using disparate technologies to capture and manage that data significantly complicates matters. With the unification in the Medidata Rave Clinical Cloud, a site can consent a patient using eConsent, which automatically creates a subject in EDC and kicks off the study workflow, dramatically reducing site burden, time lag, and transcription errors. eCOA allows patients to answer questionnaires on a phone or tablet, and that data is immediately available in EDC. And because all the data is in one place, it unlocks the door to a whole host of capabilities. RTSM for randomization, IP management, image management, and even safety reporting, all in the EDC interface. Ensuring your data is clean is another process optimized by the Medidata platform. Our centralized statistical analytics application can eliminate the cumbersome tasks of creating and poring over data listings to find quality issues. This then allows you to continually and safely monitor the quality of your data all during the study. By harnessing the power of machine learning, data trends and anomalies that would otherwise go undetected are uncovered. Accessing all your data across multiple systems and databases typically requires a lot of work. With Medidata's centralized reporter, you can run reports from a single workspace across multiple studies and URLs simultaneously. For example, providing coding teams with powerful insights on coding consistency eliminates manual review of the data and identifies potential quality problems that can be corrected in real time across your trial portfolio, all in a single view. At study closeout, sites and sponsors can access their end-of-study CRFs through the Rave EOS Media solution, eliminating the manual and cumbersome steps of the CD approach and the associated risks of non-compliance. Sites will only receive access to their folders, making this a secure and easy means of them accessing the data. The process is electronic and simplified, with acknowledgement of receipt and a full audit trail. Rave EOS ensures the right content is always delivered to the right users at the right time. From consent to closeout, the Medidata Unified Platform is the one place to manage all your clinical data and ensure quality results for your clinical development programs.
So now you see some examples of how these systems can come together and create that seamless environment. I don't know if you use the phrase Easter egg here for little things, little surprises in software or in videos. I just realized there was an Easter egg in that video for me. The research was being done at the Columbia University Medical Center, which was the hospital I used to work at. Some person in Medidata's demo team must have put that in, knowing I would notice. Just made me very happy. I had never noticed that before. So, if you look at that video, if you look at the way research can work now, not the way research worked when I was doing it 25 years ago, it means that we can take all of these different systems. We can take all of these different people. We can put them on one platform in Rave. Right? You saw in that demonstration people moving around in one platform doing jobs that we would relate to data management, to clinical operations, to pharmacovigilance, to biostatistics, to study management, to being a research coordinator, a nurse, or a physician at a site, and the patients themselves. Every stakeholder in the research project can be connected on the Rave platform. And all of the data that they are entering, that they are reviewing, that they are making decisions based on, sits in one data repository, the Medidata Enterprise Data Store, or MEDS, that is the foundation for our platform. All of that gives you this unprecedented view where you can execute better, do a better job of running traditional clinical trials faster, more efficiently, with higher quality. You can innovate. You can work in that continuous improvement world where you come up with better and different ways to execute on existing processes. And you can do what we all get excited about. You can deliver things for patients. This unified platform has some very specific tenets from an IT perspective. Remember, I said that IT was the thing, systems were what was holding us back. Why do we have something different in Medidata's IT platform? It's because all of our modules are interoperable. Everything on our platform is collaborative. When we say people are sharing data, what we really mean is there is a single source of truth. There is one place in the Medidata platform to represent a site, to represent a patient, so that you're not integrating data between EDC and ePro and RTSM and imaging. It's scalable, so that it doesn't matter how many millions or billions of data items, how many megabytes or gigabytes or terabytes, or at Medidata we now manage petabytes of data on our platform. Doesn't matter how much data you have. And I think it's worth talking for a moment about data security and privacy and regulation. We, in life sciences, sometimes have a harder job than people who are outside of life sciences have, because we deal with really important information. We deal with things about patients, real people, and we are helping to make life and death sometimes decisions for those patients. And not just for them, but for all the patients who might take a drug or use a medical device after it's approved. So we as an industry need to think about the regulation, the security, the privacy of the information that we're dealing with in a very responsible way. That is a place for scalability, just like transactions are a place for scalability. And we spend a lot of time at Medidata making sure that we can take those regulatory requirements, we can take data security, we can take data privacy, and we can think about it in the context of the module you're using. We can think about it in terms of the clinical trial that you're running. We can think about it from a platform perspective across the industry, and we can do that in every venue where trials are run. So if you are thinking about that and doing your study entirely in South Korea, from a security, privacy, regulatory perspective, we've got you covered. If you're doing that all over the Asia-Pacific region, we've got you covered. If you are a small biotech working in South Korea and doing your first research across oceans, we've got you covered. We see our role as consolidating all of those data security, privacy, and regulatory requirements across over 1,300 companies working in one of the most challenging security, privacy, and regulatory environments in the world on our shoulders. That's part of our job to deliver that to you. And as many of you know, who have come to Medidata and looked at all of our validation documentation or had meetings with our teams that focus on data privacy or focus on cybersecurity, we are trying to do that in an incredibly transparent and collaborative way with all of you. So you can think of us as more members of your team. So when somebody's asking you a question about data privacy or security or regulatory requirements, you've got that extra team of 2,800 people around the world at Medidata, including dedicated teams for all three of these sets of requirements on our team who worry about that every day. They wake up in the morning and the first thing they think about is all of these applicable regulations. We have more regulatory badges, more certifications than any company that I know of in our industry, bar none. And that is part of the underpinning of what you get in the RAVE platform. So as you are thinking about those continuous improvements, as you're thinking about the integration of separate processes and separate data and separate systems and separate people on the Rave platform, you've got the scalability from an IT perspective, and you've got all the compliance you need to do that. I'm not going to talk through every single system that we have here. But if you think about that execution, just being more efficient, if you think about innovation, we took all of the different disjointed requirements that I put up before. Plan a better study, execute a better study, finish a better study, and create more value for patients. We integrate all of that functionality now on the Medidata platform. We do that with the IT underpinnings that I described before. And we do it in a way that every time you start to use another piece of the Medidata platform, you start to get incremental value. Every single one of these solutions, I hope, you look at and say, that's the best EDC out there. That's the best ePro out there. But together, they start to be even more powerful. They start to make you more effective at that execution and innovation. So I want to stop there for a second. And I know I've focused on what's happening in clinical development, but there's some interesting things that are happening in the broader world as well. And I think they're going to affect all of us in the room who are in the business of clinical research. Right? So as a life sciences company, you have a very simple mission. We all have a very simple mission. Make better tools for healthcare than the ones that exist today. Well, it's simple to say, right? It's hard to do. And if you think about that mission of life sciences, to make better tools to help treat patients, then if you look one level down at our world, largely in clinical development, our job is to create evidence. Right? Maybe you work in ClinOps, maybe you work in data management, maybe you work in stats, maybe you're the CEO of your company. Your job is to create evidence. Medidata's job is to help you create evidence. Evidence that the new drug or the new medical device is at least as, hopefully more, effective. At least as safe, hopefully safer. At least as valuable, hopefully more valuable to the patients who are going to be taking it. If you look at what is happening in the world, and actually if you look at what's happening just in South Korea, as it starts to homogenize the way it's thinking from a regulatory perspective, with ICH, for example, we are in a new global community that is thinking about evidence in new ways. I think this is a tremendously exciting thing. I think this is a tremendously exciting thing for all of us as patients, which we all ultimately are, if not now, one day. I think this is tremendously exciting if you think about the growth of the life sciences industry and all the exciting things that I think from an industrial perspective are going to be happening in this country. I think this is exciting if you're just somebody working in life sciences, because we can think in new ways than we did before. There is a new virtuous cycle that is being embraced by people around the world, which is that the silos, we were just talking about silos in research, but there are silos between how we think about research and development and the real world outside of clinical research, the practice of medicine with our drugs and our devices. Those were also things that we thought about with silos. And now we are starting as a life sciences community to think about these virtuous cycles, to think about how data from a research project is relevant to the practice of medicine, and how the practice with a drug that maybe we just worked on the approval for is relevant to improving its label, or to helping us figure out what the next breakthrough medication can be, or the next more specific medication that's going to maybe help a smaller group of patients but be that much better for them because of a biomarker. We need to think about this in a new way. And one of the things that we're really excited about at Medidata is everything that I just told you about breaking down the silos in clinical development on the RAVE platform is something that we are working on outside of just research. We are working on in the broader sense of life sciences. So at Medidata, we have tools for clinical development in RAVE, but we also have tools for what we think of as the real-world evidence and the practice of making sure that your drug is working, both at a population level and at an individual level in the world outside of research. That's SHIFT, all the way on the right side of the slide. Right, if you really care about patients, as we do, you care about developing the best drug or the best device, but you also care about that last kilometer of getting that drug or that device to that patient who is waiting. You don't deliver any therapeutic value until somebody is actually using your product. And so the same way we think about RAVE as a way to get through the development cycle, we think about SHIFT as a way to get that last kilometer done, to get that drug to that patient. And now, if you think about all of this data and all of these people and all of this integration that we're offering on the Medidata platform, that is where Acorn AI comes in. And Sastry Chilukuri, who's the president of Acorn AI, is here today. He's going to be speaking this morning. I think you're really going to enjoy his perspective. We are in a new world where as we break down those barriers around people and data and process, not only is that a way for us to think about continuous improvement and virtuous cycles, but it's going to be transformational because it's going to allow us to take that scale I talked about of data that we have and start to apply new tools to it. Tools with machine learning involved, artificial intelligence, and actually not just do continuous improvement, but jump curves in terms of the kind of value that we deliver to patients. RAVE, Acorn, SHIFT. Clinical development, the future of digital transformation, and that last kilometer of delivering a therapy to the patient all sit on the Medidata platform. We are building what we hope to be the operating system, the platform that serves life sciences from a full product life cycle perspective, from the moment you think about a new therapy to the last time a patient is taking it. That is the journey that we are on. Once again, I cannot thank you enough for your business and your trust in a global sense, and for just taking the day to come and spend time with us and your colleagues. I hope it is really useful for you. And I just personally couldn't be happier that I'm able to do what I do every day and be on this journey with you as we work to conquer diseases and really deliver value to patients. Thank you very much.